The Digimon series has been a significant part of my gaming life. I was first introduced to the video game adaptations with the release of Digimon World on PS1, but I have always enjoyed the variety of genres these games encompass. From sim RPGs and physical digivices to the Rumble Fighters to a visual novel tactical RPG with the Survive release, this series knows no bounds. And that's a level of creativity that one should expect no matter which Digimon game that they pick up. Now, the Digimon Story series is an entirely different beast, as it's designed for an even broader audience within the scope of a JRPG adventure. This leads me to Digimon Story Time Stranger, a new release after years of anticipation from the Digimon community, which may have possibly heightened expectations across the board. Luckily for us, Bandai Namco has seemingly invested in the future of this series by taking the time necessary to develop what is arguably one of the best Digimon adventures to date. Digimon Story Time Stranger opens with letting you choose a character, and don't worry, the character you don't choose will become your advisor throughout the narrative. The opening moments of the game are pretty important to understand the overall plot. Essentially, an anomaly has broken out on top of a tower. You are instructed to investigate, but your role as an agent in all of this is kept secret from the general public. Eventually, this leads to finding out that Digimon have now taken over the area, and some are causing significant destruction. It's around this time that you're actually sucked into a portal, drop a rare Digi-Egg onto the ground, and end up in the digital world of Iliad 8 years before the events that you've just experienced. However, don't worry, communication with your agent partner, who is still in the future, helps paint the picture of both realities. The pacing of the opening 20 hours or so of this narrative is pretty straightforward as you assist in taking down Titan Digimon plaguing the digital world. The stories here are surface level, but I do commend the narrative team for getting me emotional about a Shellmon who wants to help a wounded Titan Digimon, even if it gets her in trouble. Still, I'd say that the more significant plot surrounding you making your way back home doesn't really pick up until after gathering information across these various regions. There's honestly a lot at play here, and a few twists that highlight just how far this series is willing to tackle nuanced themes of friendship, loyalty, and courage. I think the developer has done an amazing job of keeping this adventure spoiler-free for now, so I'll stop here. But aside from the time shenanigans, many unsuspecting characters become central figures in later chapters. On top of this, I'd like to also highlight the NPCs that you talk to around the various Digimon villages. I was happy to see a hub town represented in each area that you visit, but a lot of the action takes place in Central Town. Talking to the Digimon adds so much to the immersion of this adventure that we've not seen in previous games. The submissions, which are essentially just fetch quests and battles, serve a purpose as they tie into story milestones and progress some of the side plots. Even the costume that you buy have some side missions attached to them. I would also suggest doing these side quests for agent skill points, since they do feed directly into unlocking new systems that change how you approach combat in Digivolution. In terms of scale, there are a good handful of dungeons to explore. Still, I would say that the environments are pretty compact and typically revolve around one traversal gimmick, whether that be opening locked doors or swinging from trees. Eventually, support Digimon do join you, who can assist in battle but also used for these gimmicks. The dungeon designs aren't really anything to write home about and basically serve more as mazes as you're trying to get from one place to another. Still, the team tried with these areas as each of them has something unique about it. All these areas seem to be set up in a way that suggests future DLC can come around and build on the regions with new areas, given that you access all the points from a menu map, so maybe we'll see improvements in the future. However, let's get into the real stars of this show, the Digimon. While exploring, there will be aggressive Digimon found around the field ready to fight. It's possible to attack them from the field to add early damage and get a preemptive strike, and when you're overpowered, you simply defeat the Digimon on the field in this way. I liked this system, but it encourages it to be used every time you see an enemy, which makes it almost necessary to press the strike button religiously in case a Digimon is hiding around a corner. Fighting Digimon is all you really need to do to add them to your party, as each encounter influences a scan percentage. Stronger Digimon that you meet in later parts of the game will demand more fights, but you'll likely have a nice pool of convertible Digimon in no time. At 100% scan rate, you can convert the Digimon into your party, but if you wait until 200%, you can convert them into a stronger Digimon. Now, here's kinda where the fun begins. You'll notice at the start of the game, higher Digivolutions are tied to your agent rank, which improves after story milestone and side quest completion. I'd say that you don't need to worry too much about perfecting your party until probably after rank 5, so before that, just go ham and Digivolve whenever you get the chance. In this process, the nuances of Digivolution begin to show up. Time Stranger leans heavily into the idea that Digivolution is non-linear, and with more than 450 Digimon included, it becomes quickly overwhelming in a very good way. You'll notice as you play that interacting with your Digimon affects their personality, and to another extent, your bond level with that Digimon. Now, depending on their personality, each time they level up, they'll gain stats in specific areas. For example, strength and intuition. However, for some Digivolutions, the speed stat needs to be above a certain number. This means that you'll need to work to change that Digimon's personality through interactions on the field or send them to the Digifarm for training. Digifarm is a standout system here since it lets Digimon grow while idle, and training items can push stats further. Food can even increase bonds, which ties directly into how powerful Digimons become across evolutions. Digimon in the Digifarm also earn experiences from your outside field battles. Now, while walking around the field, you can oftentimes interact with your Digimon. I found the best time to do this is while I was healing, since you can recover by standing still, and taking like 9 seconds at the most. While talking to your Digimon, you can answer personality questions to change their mood, eventually giving them access to new traits. In late game Digivolutions, this becomes even more specific with trait requirements tied to one of the 4 core traits: philanthropy, valor, wisdom, and amicability. Within these 4 traits are additional 4 traits such as zealous, brave, reckless, and daring under the valor trait. As you interact with your Digimon, you can manipulate where their personality lies, which is needed when a Digimon requires not only stats, but also a specific trait to Digivolve. All this leads me to say that Digimon Story Time Stranger will consume all of your time, and I gladly gave it everything I had. There's almost never a dull situation because everything you do feeds into some side mission that you might have going on in your head about reaching a Digivolution path that requires setup before access. Using the Digifarm is a godsend, but the timers on these trainings reinforce the idea that the more powerful Digivolutions that you want, the more time and planning it will take. It's almost quite literally a game within the overall game when trying to wrap your head around the sheer number of possible Digivolutions and crafting what your party ultimately looks like. Equipment and abilities can also be installed into Digimon to make them more well-rounded in battle. Then you eventually find out that equipping abilities that match the Digimon's type adds further benefits. The system opens up more the deeper you play, becoming the ultimate way to spend 10 hours investing in training a handful of Digimon into your ultimate party. The combat itself deserves a little more detail as well, given that it's a turn-based system that feels familiar but has many layers. There are 7 attributes for Digimon, including Virus, Vaccine, and Data. Virus Digimon are weak to Vaccine, Vaccine are weak to Data, and Data are weak to Virus. Each Digimon also has resistance and weaknesses tied to elements. Exploiting these can triple your damage output, which is essential during boss encounters. Thankfully, you can press a button to analyze enemies and check their stats, which becomes routine as you optimize your party. Add in some cross arts, which is your agent's special ability. On top of these mechanics, made battles dynamic, especially since swapping Digimon mid-battle doesn't consume a turn. Digimon Story Time Stranger encourages these experimentations by making normal field battles relatively easy. Each area has a handful of stronger enemies, but for the most part you can increase speed to 5x and turn on auto battles so you can focus on team building instead. All Digimon in your care receive experience as well, so don't be shy about converting Digimon and just storing them away. This design choice creates a satisfying game loop that feeds directly into the final challenge, which is the level bosses. And Jesmon Christ, I can't begin to tell you how challenging these fights are. I would say each of the significant boss fights took me in probably 2 tries, one to figure out their weaknesses, and the other to use that knowledge in order to win. The fights are demanding in terms of strategy, party management, and understanding how buffs and debuffs work. Cross arts can absolutely save you if you've unlocked the right ones through the agent's skills. Be prepared to consider lowering the difficulty for these, but do your best to push through. I did, and I will say that it made the game feel very rewarding. These are moments where the party you've built feels tested, and the payoffs make the investment worth it. Agent ranks also come into play as they provide benefits tied to Digimon personalities and unlock new cross arts. It's also possible to improve bonds through this system, which adds even more depth to the progression. Personally, I leaned on the attack-based unlocks, but you can easily define your own playstyle. It's flexible enough to suit different approaches, and that's honestly appreciated in a game already bursting with options. Another thing that stood out to me was the sound design. Everything you do has a unique sound effect, from navigating the menus to equipping skills, and it didn't get old. Each region's soundtrack is memorable, and the Central Town's theme always makes me smile when I return to it. The English voiceover is decent, even though the protagonist is silent. Considering that I watch so much of the anime, I do prefer the Japanese audio for the Digimon. If I had one nitpick, it's that I want to view the Digivolution tree from the Digimon stored in the Digifarm. Here, you can check details but not the requirements, which feels like an oversight. On top of that, some early game tutorials gloss over mechanics like the in-between theater, which appears subtly without much explanation, but it becomes a central figure in the later chapters. Digimon Story Time Stranger feels like the payoff longtime fans have been waiting for, all while still opening the door to newcomers curious about the series. The story starts small, but steadily grows into a tale that ties the human and digital worlds together in a way that feels earned. What kept me hooked was how every system connected, turning even the smallest interaction into steps towards something larger. Digivolution works as a layered puzzle of traits, bonds, and timing that never stopped being rewarding with all the effort that you put in. Further, boss fights challenge you to use everything that you've learned, while the various systems give you room to push back. If by chance you've been missing the call of the DigiDestined, this is the perfect time to answer it. NoiseyPixel is giving Digimon Story Time Stranger a 9 out of 10. Thanks for watching. This video is brought to you by our supporters on Patreon. NoiseyPixel is run by a group of gamers providing independent gaming coverage through news, reviews, previews, and more. Check out our Patreon to help support our continued growth, and subscribe to keep up with all our future content.
NoiseyPixel.